committee is to create an atmosphere of inclusion, equality, and accessibility through education and outreach to recognize the value of a diverse community. I believe Whitney sent out the minutes last week. If everybody's had a chance to review them, I'd accept a motion to approve or any changes that we would like to see made.
I would make a motion to approve.
Okay. We have a motion from Darcy. Do we have a second?
I will second.
Okay, we have a second from Shay. All in favor, say aye or raise your hand if you're on the computer and able to.
Aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we'll move on to public comment. Is there anybody, I know we don't have very many cameras on, but is there anybody on the call that's here to make public comment today? Hearing none, we'll move on to the annual report. This is something that Sister Hannah has helped us with in the past few years. And I don't know if Sister Hannah, if you were planning on doing that again this year. So why don't, Whitney, where are we at on that? Is that something they've been working on for the last several months, or are we looking to assign somebody to do that? Please remind me.
Sister Hannah has the report for this year. She said there's not a lot of stuff on it, but I think she'll do the report in January before her term is up. And then we'll be needing somebody for her to pass the torch on to.
Okay, so it sounds like we have two things to go through. First, Sister Hannah, do you want to give us an update on the reports, and maybe we can talk about what days would be best for you to present that to the commission?
Yeah, actually, I haven't really done anything on it. But I have, I have the outline from last time. I can fill in stuff, but yeah, it's going to be pretty sparse, obviously. I'll have to look. Did we do anything in January?
I don't believe so, not that I can recall. I think our spring event had to be postponed, and then we ended up canceling it. And of course, we didn't do anything this fall.
We didn't do the library event, right, this year? Okay. Yeah, it's going to be a different report, but I can put it together. Yes.
I certainly think you should highlight the video that you and Manisha worked on in this report. I think that was
right.
that was a new initiative.
That's about all we have. So.
Well, sure. Lots of pictures.
Yep.
Take lots of screenshots. So
I do.
You're comfortable presenting that at the January commission meeting, Sister Hannah?
Yeah, and that would be, when do they meet again? The second and fourth Tuesdays?
Yes.
Okay. Are you thinking the fourth or the second?
That can be up to you, actually.
Okay. Maybe the fourth one.
Okay.
If that works for I think we got bumped or something last time, but January 26th. And they've been meeting, are they letting the public in, or how does that work, or just present?
If you are comfortable attending the commission meeting in person, you certainly can. The only request is that anybody in the Tom Baker room needs to be wearing a mask until you get to the podium. And when you're at the podium, then you can take off your mask to address the commissioners. Or if you would prefer, you can absolutely give your presentation via Zoom. So you just need to let us know, Hannah, whatever is more comfortable for you, and we'll help from there.
Okay, yeah, I would do it in person probably. Okay.
Okay. And we would put that very close to the top of the agenda, so you're not sitting and waiting for an hour or so for everything else to go first. We would give you the first spot on the regular agenda side of things, so you should be in and out within a half an hour or so.
Sounds good.
And if any other committee members are interested in attending to show Hannah support, that's always encouraged. I know due to COVID-19, some of us or many of us might not be comfortable attending a commission meeting. So if you aren't able, I'd encourage you to attend virtually. And Jason or Whitney, if you can provide us with the instructions on how to do that, that would be great.
Sure.
All right, so then next, in regards to the annual report, as Sister Hannah unfortunately will be leaving us at the end of her term, and we will still have an annual report to work on for next year. I would be looking for volunteers on who would be interested in taking that process.
And Krista, I'm showing a few people with their hands up. I'm not sure if it was from the first motion or if they actually have comments.
Looks like it's Shay and Annette. So Shay and Annette, if you have your hand up just by accident, if it's just lingering, if you could take it down. And if you have a question, go ahead and chime on in.
Okay, there we go.
Shucks, I was hoping they were volunteering. So is anybody interested in taking on that annual report? I guess for those who haven't seen it before, maybe Hannah, you could give them an overview of what the process looks like and how much time you spend on it.
Yeah, sure. The process is pretty easy. I can certainly send the sort of skeleton to whoever's doing it because I have the first pages. You just kind of fill in, change the members' names. You know, the mission statement, the new ones on there and all of that stuff, the logos are all good. So you would just have to fill in the inside, little description of each event that we did with some pictures. So it's not heavy duty information. It's just something for the commissioners to look through or whoever and see what we've done in the past year, basically. So kind of like tooting our own horn to make sure that people know we're doing things and are making a contribution to the community, I guess.
I suspect the easiest way too to put that information together is if you start at the beginning of the year, so that you're not rushing to do it at the end. Maybe each time an event is held, asking people for pictures, or if you're in attendance, taking pictures of it yourself.
Definitely, yeah.
So I think that's why we'd be looking for somebody to step into that role now rather than when the report is due, just so it's not such a heavy lift. Any questions on the annual report, or is there anybody interested in taking that on?
Share content.
Yep.
Could we have a little time to like maybe think on it and look at the schedule ahead? Because it's something, this is Brandy, by the way, I would consider, but it kind of depends on how the next couple weeks in the first month of 2021 kind of plays off with some of the other work that I'm involved in right now. So I want to make sure before I would like actually commit to that I'm not overcommitting myself and then I'm not holding up or being able to carry through the responsibilities of it.
If nobody's interested in taking this on right now, we can table it for the next meeting and we can try to assign somebody to that role in January.
I'm okay with that.
Okay. Jason, do we need a motion to table that, or can we just move on to the agenda?
I think just we can add it to the next agenda. That's fine.
Okay. So next on the list would be the cultural awareness and sensitivity training, and this is something, Brandy, that is a kind of a mission of yours. It was something you brought forth to the committee. So I'll probably just toss it over to you if that's okay, and you can give us an update. I believe you were going to propose a few dates to us where we could schedule a time outside of our regular meeting to attend some cultural awareness training.
Yeah, so I have spoken with Angel and Leah, the other two individuals who would be assisting me in this training, and we were looking towards the end of February. And so they both suggested that really the dates are kind of open. So I wanted to bring it back to the committee and see if there was a preference on the day of the week. And I know that we wanted it out. Well, last time I thought there was a toss of like, it could be one of our meeting times or it could be outside of it. And so with it being like that we're looking to February, is there any conflict with that first and foremost to make sure it's not crossing over or overlapping any other events that usually go at the end of February, mid-end of February? And then are there preferred days of the week? Because like I said, it would be either the week of the 15th or the week of the 22nd that we're looking to host this. And so with those being pretty open, I just wanted to be able to bring it to the committee and then bring back some of the discussion to Angel and Leah, and then we would solidify a date then.
One thing to be just pay attention to on those weeks is that the 15th would normally be our regularly scheduled meeting, but since that's President's Day, I suspect we're going to meet on the 22nd. So we're looking to schedule it for a Monday evening. It probably wouldn't work. I do believe that at our last meeting, I'd have to go back to the minutes, but I believe that the committee agreed to do it outside of the regular meeting time because we want to get through the agenda. So I don't know if it's easier for the committee to meet on a Monday evening if we'd want to look at an alternate week or into other dates and times.
Yeah, and that's what I was kind of wondering, because I know that there's, like a lot of, everyone's busy. So I want to make sure that with a date that's being selected, that the majority or all of the committee members are able to be present for it. And so that's why I wanted to be able to bring it up that we're just looking at the last 2 weeks as the options to choose a date. And I'm assuming, like a Friday evening, most people probably wouldn't necessarily attend, but so Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays tend to be the most open in the evenings, and I just wanted to toss those out there. For again, I understand the week of the 15th, but those are the final 2 weeks in February are what we're looking at. And if you would prefer, if it's okay to send out then like a Survey Monkey or doodle poll with like specific dates, that if we can't come up with a few of them here, then I'm fine with that. But that's kind of what the other individuals told me, is that they have that flexibility and at the end. So
I think we should be able to send out a doodle poll. I think you would just have to get those dates to Whitney to be able to facilitate that. I would say let's avoid the 15th and the 22nd as those 2 dates specifically, as the 15th is a holiday and I don't want to require anybody to participate on their day off necessarily. And the 22nd is likely where we're going to schedule our next meeting. So I would like to see if it's possible, if any of the other presenters are willing to look at another date, it would be nice if we could have at least one Monday on there as an option, as the committee members generally, we know that everybody has Mondays at 5:15 somewhat free. Okay. So if there's we could get on there, that would be great.
Okay, I will go back to them with that and see if that would be doable. Because I can go back to them and see if I were able to get them to be available on the 8th, is that a date that we could all work with then? Because I agree with you, Krista. I just wanted to let you know what was answered back to me, and then, but if I can get them to be available on the 8th, I will do that if the committee members would be available that date.
I think if you just want to ask them if they can make the 8th work, then you could propose the 8th, and then you mentioned Tuesdays and Thursdays typically work well. So I would propose 8th, the 16th, 18th, 23rd, and 25th to the committee. And if Whitney could send that out as a doodle poll, then we'll pick whichever date has the best availability. And I think
Perfect.
that, I mean, we'll obviously wait until you confirm that up with your speakers, but I think that would give us a good variety. We'd have one that's at a regularly scheduled meeting time, different day, but normal time. And then we'd have a little variety with those other 4 days. So.
Perfect. That's what I was thinking. And we were planning on doing it at the same time as every other meeting would be, the 5:15 start time, and then going from there. And then it would be 60 to roughly 90 minutes, including the Q&A and that.
Sounds great. Any questions
for
Brandy on this training? Brandy, did you have anything additional that you'd like to add, or is there anything that the committee can do to help you in preparing this training?
I don't think as of now. This gives me a good point to go back to the speakers with, and then if there's any follow-up, what I'll do is just send it to Whitney to have it sent out. But at this time, not really. We all just, the speakers and I all have a good idea of what we want to present, and so that there wasn't too much needed from the committee at this time.
All right. Sounds great.
Okay.
I'll pause in case there's any questions for Brandy, and if not, we'll move on to the next item.
Krista, this is Jason. Could either you or Brandy, could you rattle off those dates again for the doodle poll, please, just to make sure we've got them all?
Yeah, so it was she's going to check on February 8th. So that's a possibility if the speakers are available. Otherwise, we'd be looking at February 16th, February 18th, February 23rd, and February 25th. But you probably won't be able to send it out till you hear back from Brandy, because she'll be checking to see if the 8th is a option available to us.
Okay.
Yep, and I'll send that email out tonight to them, just so I can try to get a quick response.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, thank you, Brandy. So then we'll move on to the next item on our agenda, item 8, Bismarck Global Neighbors Diversity and Inclusion Partnership. We had a number of action items that came out of the last committee meeting as far as what we'd like to do after we heard from Leah about the needs that she saw in our community. One of those was the language access education, and we had talked a little bit about, would we as a committee organize some sort of education program that the public could participate in? I don't know if we really went any further with that. I believe Leah was going to look in to see if there were any speakers who would be available to teach one of those classes, but I don't see that Leah's on the call. Leah, if you're there, let me know. Maybe I'm just, there's no faces, so. So hearing that Leah's not on the call, I'm not sure that there's much more we can do in line with the language access education, unless any committee members have come across anything that they'd like us to be aware of, or have any ideas on a person who could teach some language access education. Specifically, this item was referring to teaching, what is available for businesses to use, why language access is important. So it would be more of a presentation put on by the Human Relations Committee for businesses in the city of Bismarck. So any ideas on how we could facilitate that, or any speakers we should be in contact with?
I'm not familiar with anyone at this time, but if I come across anything, I would be more than happy to share that.
That would be great. Thank you, Brandon.
Yeah, I mean, no promises, but I feel like that's tough. But I can put out some feelers and see what I can get back, if anything, honestly.
Definitely, I appreciate that. I think Leah had a few people in mind, and she must not have been able to join us today. So I can
Okay.
follow up with her and see if she had any specific people in mind and how we could go about pursuing that. Any other questions or comments on that one? All right, so moving into the next bullet item under the Diversity and Inclusion Partnership, the Gateways for Growth. And this is a grant program that's specific to research and support for new American economy and welcoming America. So it aims to improve immigrant inclusion in their communities. And I see that those are linked. So, feel free if you have the agenda up and you want to click through and learn a little bit more about that program, you're able to. Whitney, I believe you were going to look into this a little bit and find out if this is something we could participate in.
Yeah, there's nothing keeping the committee from participating or applying for the grants. The only thing is one of the members or all of the members would have to dedicate at least an hour a day every week from start to finish. So it's kind of a heavy lift if that's something you guys were interested in doing.
Did you say all of the members of the committee or just one?
If I was looking at like the best practices toolkit, and it says at least one person would need to spend an hour a day per week at a minimum to facilitate the program.
That does sound like quite a heavy lift. I don't know if there's anyone on the committee who would be willing to accept that responsibility. I think we need to be really realistic if we were to pursue this. So just opening it up to discussion, is there anybody who would feel comfortable taking on that commitment? Since I'm not hearing any feedback, I'm thinking that this is an item that maybe we can keep in the back of our heads, keep in the back of our minds, and maybe not pursue at this time. Do any other committee members have input on that? Do you agree? Do you disagree?
I would agree with putting it on the back. I just think that you're right with kind of the commitment piece, and that's. I know personally I wouldn't be able to take that on right now, but I'm only speaking for myself, so I'll give you a response.
Thank you, Brandy. Any other input there? I'd love for it to be a discussion. I don't just want to say, hey, this is what we're doing. So if anybody else would like to chime in and share their thoughts, I'd really appreciate it.
Hi, this is Manisha, and I'll just say it does look like a big commitment, and I don't know if personally if I have the time to commit an hour a day a week. That is a heavy lift. So just my 2 cents.
Thank you, Manisha.
Kind of in the same boat right now. It's a hefty ask.
Is there anybody who would like to see us move forward with this grant or would have the time to dedicate to it? All right, hearing none and acknowledging that this is a heavy lift for a volunteer-run committee, I guess that we could keep this in mind as our projects related to diversity and inclusion move forward. But at this time, I think we can just put that on the back burner. We're aware of the grant program, and if we decide to pursue it, we can always look at it at a later date. Underneath that, they do have a strategic planning best practices toolkit. I think there's some resources under this grant program that are available that we can probably use as we move forward in this partnership. But as far as the grant, I agree with everybody else on the call. I think it's probably not worth pursuing at this time. The next thing that we had was on the bullets underneath the diversity and inclusion partnership was the Portland, Oregon Immigrant and Refugee Program. And this is an example of what they've done in Portland, Oregon to welcome their new Americans. And it's meant to be used as inspiration for us as we look at ways to, better our impact on our new Americans, and not just new Americans, but anybody that we're trying to make sure feels more welcomed and included in our community. So I'm not sure if anyone's had a chance to look this over too thoroughly, but maybe prior to the next meeting, if we all want to give it a look and see if there's anything we feel we can apply in our community.
That would be great if we could have time to read through it, because I feel like I didn't see this soon enough, but what I did kind of skim over seemed to be really great information, and I agree with you. I think discussion is needed on it, if that's okay with the committee.
Did anybody have a chance to look this over? All right, so maybe we'll just, put that down, we'll keep that on the agenda so that we can look at that next week or not next week, next month, and hopefully we'll be able to discuss it more in depth then and talk about what we're able to do to, take some best practices from that program and apply them locally. And the last thing is the Human Relations Committee Discrimination Forum. And Whitney, I think that you've been working on this and you've made some progress. I know that there's, you've sent a few emails, and I believe there's, a lot of changes that came to our website and to the forum since our last meeting. Do you want to go over those?
Yes, so will you click on that link? The first big change on our website is, I think the window is covering it, Jason.
Let's see, is it?
It's like the bottom one. So, and I'm not sure if you can, where that human relations window is at.
This one?
Yeah. So at the bottom of the screen where it says select language, you can change the website now into any of these languages, and the people filling out the form can then understand what they are writing or what they're reading. That goes for the whole website itself. So I know one of the issues with the form was that it was only in English and that we didn't have access to other languages. So this kind of fixed that problem. Another option was to have some printed forms at the library. And if you guys were wanting that to be done, we can do that. We just don't have the option in different languages. I mean, unless I go through each of those languages or languages that are prevalent in our city, we can do that and have those printed for the library. But yeah, that's about all that I have on that one.
And Whitney, this isn't just for our form, right? This translation option is across the whole website, right?
Right. So if you switch that, Jason, any of them, the Chinese are like super easy to. So this changes the only thing is like PDFs sometimes aren't translated but we looked at like even on the stuff from like the state and things like that. Most of the information is translated.
That's amazing.
So one step moving forward, I called Civic Plus and I said, I saw it on someone else's website and I'm like, is this an option we can purchase for our website? He's like, oh, I can put that on there right now. So I thought it was really cool. It made my day.
Such a simple change, and all we had to do was ask the question. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. This is amazing.
Thank you, Whitney, so much for your work on that. We really appreciate it. And I think it's pretty cool that we're talking about how everybody can improve language access. And it's nice to see that we're taking the initiative to do that, considering that, if this committee were to be the one asking other businesses to take that step forward, it's nice that we're already there. So I appreciate all the work you did on that. Before we move on from the diversity and inclusion partnership, I did want to touch on one thing. I think that this has been a pretty slow moving agenda item. We've had it on there for several months and we're not making a lot of progress. So I'm wondering if it would be better if we had somebody who was the lead maybe on this project, who, reported back. We can say, read these documents, but if we're not reading them and we're not coming prepared for discussion, I think we're just going to keep coming over it and kind of wasting time going in circles, going through all the bullet points. We've spent about 10 or 15 minutes on it now, but we haven't been able to take any action. So I'm wondering if there are any committee members who are interested in being the lead on this. And I know it's an ask, but as a volunteer committee, we can't have all these responsibilities fall on the same people. So I'm hoping that one of our committee members would be interested in taking this on. If not, I think it'll probably fall on me, but I would really like to see some committee members take this on as a initiative and maybe lead the progress going forward.
Krista, what part are you asking to be taken on with the reading and the lead? Sorry, I just want clarity on what you're asking.
Well, I think it would be having those conversations with Leah, connecting with her, making sure that she's aware of the meetings, she's able to attend, maybe things that I think it would kind of be all encompassing. So the Gateways for Growth, we're striking that, right? Because as of this time, we don't have anybody who's willing to make that commitment. But as far as that immigrant and refugee program and the language access education, to move that forward, I think we need more than just committee time, perhaps. I think it's going to be conversations with Leah, maybe reading through that program information and reporting back to the committee so the committee can take action. I'm not sure that we're really going to progress past it unless, we have somebody who's passionate about it and willing to push it forward. So I think if there's anybody who's willing to take on that initiative, that would be absolutely wonderful.
This is Coley. If they're going to be a team, maybe if another person on the committee interested and to be a part, I will be able to help out. But maybe for one person doing it, I don't know what else included, but I'm kind of interested.
Thanks, Coley. Yeah, I think, if we wanted to have a team that was working on this, that would be great. I also think just having one person who's doing the research and bringing it back to the committee, I think the committee could then be the team on that. So we already have a lot of the materials here. We have our contact with Leah, who could provide us with more. When we were talking about language access, she was going to provide us with a couple potential speakers or presenters who could talk to that, who could, hold a 1 hour lunch and learn for businesses, for example. So a lot of it is just connecting with Leah, finding out to determine those resources, and then this immigrant and refugee program from Portland, Oregon. I think if somebody combed through that and came back with points for the committee so that we knew, hey, this is what this program is about. Here are a couple things I liked. These are the things I can implement. I think our committee could implement, and then we could have a discussion. So I think we really just need a point person to be the lead on it, to guide us through those conversations. Is that something you would be comfortable doing, Collie?
Yeah. Okay. I just thought it was the whole council report that needed to be put in place. But yeah, I can work with Leah about that, and we can get some information to get to the committee.
That would be wonderful. Thank you. And like I said, the committee can kind of help. If you bring that information to the next meeting, the committee can help with those discussions, and we'll help in any way possible to move it forward.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank
Sounds
you,
good.
Colby. Any other questions on or comments on the diversity and inclusion partnership?
Kirsty, if you just give me if you just send me an email, and just as a reminder, some bullet points on what I'll be getting from Leah about the information, then I can take over. I can proceed with that.
Sure. No, I can send you an email. And like I said, really, it's just asking her if she knows of any presenters who could teach a language access education program to local businesses. So how local businesses could, integrate a language access program. That's what we're looking for people to present on. And then again, just to look over that Portland, Oregon immigrant and refugee program, and then report back to the committee what you think would be some items that we could try to implement on a local level. And then, once we hear from you on that, then, we can hopefully have a exciting discussion about how we want to move this forward.
All right. Sounds good, Christy. I got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments on the diversity and inclusion partnership?
I had questions on the form. Is that part of? Okay. So I was reviewing through the form that is out on our website, which I think looks really, really good overall. My follow-up question is, I noticed that in there it had gender but not gender identity, and is that something, who would we need to talk to maybe make that change or adjustment? Because I think it's really important to make sure that gender identity is separate from sexual orientation, since they are identified differently in communities. And then also with hate crime, since we don't have a city ordinance and the state of North Dakota does not have a biasy or hate crime bill, how would we then move forward with that sort of information, and who would we be reporting that to? Like the police, the labor and human services? Because when I'm looking at some of these, I'm just curious on what sort of partnerships or collaboration we're doing, because for example, with employment and housing, those are going to go through the labor and human services department, but almost everything else is going to go through the court system. And so if we don't know who we need to be directing, I guess I'm just kind of wondering where we're going to be, where this information gets sent off to, or if there's a process after that, like through beyond our committee, so that we're not just holding this information, that it's actually going out to where it needs to be going. Sorry, that was a really long statement to a really short question.
No, I'm glad you brought that up, because that was something we talked about in the last meeting, and we wanted to identify, because I don't know that the process has ever been established or in place. And then we talked, at length about this at the last meeting. Where these complaints go, how are they handled? Because as an advisory committee, we really don't have the power to enforce these. And so, we were supposed to talk about that today, and I just missed it. So I'm really glad that you brought it up. Whitney,
No,
do you or Jason have any insight on what the process has been, or if we have received any discrimination forms and how they've been processed?
To this date, we don't have records of the forms being received, and so, or at least since Jason and I have been in this office, so going forward, we would need to establish a new process. Most of the time, if we get a form like this, or we get a complaint or a concern, we direct it to the department that it's related to, or we try to get that person in contact with the right resources. So if it comes to the committee, then the committee could further on, or, you know, come up with a process to get the information in the right hands.
Can I offer up something? So the work I'm doing with the North Dakota Human Rights Coalition is a lot of this. And so I have been building relationships with people who are working on similar things, or their different avenues. And would it be okay to share that we have this forum? Because I know with like Erica Thunder through the governor's office, she would be able to better assist us in how we could potentially support anyone who would file a report, like I said, with employment and housing, and getting them connected with the right people. And then I just completed 6 separate trainings with the Bismarck PD on cultural competency this month. And so that's something we're establishing right now as kind of the follow-up to that training. And so if they're aware of this form, I would love to be able to take it back to them and see if they could advise us on like a better way to make sure that if people are submitting this form through our committee, that we have either an officer or a route to make sure that we can get it in front of them, especially if it's like a hate crime with, you know, race or, you know, gender or anything with hate crime. They have protocols and procedures and in certain forms and requirements in their forms that need to be filled out. And I think it would just be really beneficial to have a little bit of that seamlessness between what's being reported for biases, I guess.
I would agree with that, Brandy. I think the other important thing is if we're going to have a discrimination form out there, I don't think anywhere on this form does it say that the discrimination has to occur among city staff. So if I were to see this, I would think that it would make a report regardless of if it was involved on city property. I've had people contact me because of my relationship with this committee to inquire about discrimination in housing and other forms of discrimination not related to city operations or city staff. And I wouldn't feel comfortable having them submit this form because I don't know that there's really a process in place for how we would handle that. And I wouldn't want them to have false hope. I wouldn't want us to drop the ball. So I agree with what you're saying, Brandy. I think we need to define the process. If this isn't going to go anywhere, if there's no way that we're going to assist with these problems, then I don't know that we should be encouraging people to submit a form. So I think we need a process in place for how we handle these, and you know, what can we bring resolution to any of this? If we're just, you know, passing it off to a city department and we don't know that there's any end in sight, you know, if there's no guarantee for improvement, are we really the best gatekeepers for this? And Jason, maybe you can provide some input on your thoughts regarding that.
Sure. I think Whitney was right that we would do our best internally to, address whatever concerns were out there. And I guess my first thought would be, short of this office and our city attorney's office getting involved, depending on the nature of the complaint, my first thought was to send that to the police department Again, if it kind of falls in that category of law enforcement doing the work, but at the same time, I can appreciate if all we're doing is passing a complaint from one office to another, that's just gonna lead to a little frustration on the individual's part. But that said, I would hate for that explanation from us, I would hate for that to stifle anybody from, using this form and feeling confident about submitting the form. Having not received anything thus far doesn't surprise me because we're not really advertising that it's even out there. But
Right.
I'd be pretty foolish to assume that we live in a community that is free from these types of concerns. So
I would
It's
I
not
would
to be
say
said
that having this form is really beneficial. And the reason being is, Jason, to your point, there are a number of things that are happening in the community where people are too afraid to go to the police directly right now. So this could be a really great opportunity for us to kind of be that safe space for community members to go, because in 2019 there were no reports of any sort of biasy behavior reported to law enforcement. But I can tell you that I personally experienced it this year and called the police, as well as knowing other community members, but there just was too much fear around going to the police directly that has inhibited a number of people. And that's not just within the queer community. I'm speaking from people who had some other issues. And so I think that if we were to be able to say or establish that a protocol or even like suggest an ordinance change or anything where, even if it's just saying, okay, if we take these forms, we have Officer Smith that we then submit these forms to, or that they get sent over to, we can establish a safe space for individuals within our community, which wouldn't be like the worst thing, with it still being the education piece of this can be filed on, but we, after this point, this is kind of like out of our hands, since we are really strictly with education. But I looked at our form and it really is so well laid out that I think that it could be very useful. And if it's put out there in the right communities, it may be utilized because people will feel safe going through the city versus going directly to an officer. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
I think it makes sense, but if as the devil's advocate here, if those people who file that discrimination form, who maybe were wary of going to the police, if they file that form and then the person who responds is a police officer rather than someone from the city, did we really resolve that concern, do you think? Or is it just one more step to get somewhere they didn't want to go? Because it would still be the police that are handling the situation. We're just kind of the middleman, and really all we do is they submit it and then we say, Officer Smith, here you go.
This is Manisha. Can I just add something to the discussion here? I'm just basing it off of, if there is someone who's looking for a safe space, I think they're going to be much more hesitant going right away to law enforcement compared to taking those smaller steps where, they are finally able to, obviously they are going to be helped by the law enforcement. However, if there is someone in the middle, it does help them be able to come out and speak or ask for help, really, because I think that's what they're really looking for. And sometimes people are, we do know that people are worried and scared of the uniform. And so if one of our goals as a committee is to provide that safe space, then I think the information coming in from the form might help the person, whoever is submitting it.
Thank you, Manisha, and thank you, Brandy. So if we're going to move forward with this, do we want to just have these forms go to the police department, or do we want to we want to work with the police department to identify a process, maybe who's the officer in charge of these complaints? If we're talking about setting up a process, I think we'd have to make some changes moving forward. Any thoughts from the committee on that?
I like the idea of the second suggestion you had mentioned with who an officer. I mean, realistically, we'd probably have to have a conversation with them anyways. I'm assuming, like, hey guys, we're just going to send you forms. But I think seeing if they already have an already existing officer, or if they would establish one, or how that looks, I'd be more than happy to reach out to the officers I've been working with. I've been working with Chief Dravovich and Officer Horn and Officer Ziegler, who are the community officers, which falls underneath, so with Officer Horn and Officer Ziegler, it literally falls underneath their roles and responsibility. So I would be curious to see if this is something they would already be prepared or available to take on. Or have better guidance for it. So I'd be happy to reach out and ask if that's something you'd like me to do.
That would be great, Brandy. Do you think we should have one of the officers attend our next meeting so we can discuss this?
That is a great question.
Manisha,
yeah, that's a great question.
Manisha, I see your hands raised. Did you have a comment?
I just wanted to get a clarification. I have not seen the form, and so my question is, as someone is submitting the form, is there any place in there which states that, hey, when you're submitting this form, we're going to try and connect you to someone who is an officer? Because I think letting people know up front is also an important thing to do.
No, Manisha, I don't think that's on there. And the form is actually what they had up earlier when we were showing the language translation. This is the comment in the complaint form that you can submit. So you would provide the, information, your contact information. The allegation of discrimination was because of, but like I said, I don't know that there was ever a formal process identified. So I don't know that it says anywhere that, we will follow up with you or a police officer will follow up with you. So that's where I think that we would need to have some sort of process in place if we were to promote this. As is, I don't know, things in city government move kind of slowly sometimes. Our committee only meets once a month. So if we got a complaint form last week, let's say, we wouldn't see it until probably wouldn't be able to take any action on it till this meeting. And at this time, we don't even know what our process is. So it would just kind of hang in the balance. And if somebody filled out this form and they were discriminated against, I don't think we can just sit on it for, a month or several weeks before they get a follow-up. So that's where I think we need to identify a process. And to yours and Brandy's point, perhaps it's a relationship with the police department in, we're going to promote this form. If we get any complaints, we're going to send them to you. And then maybe either somebody from this committee or city staff would respond, to somebody to say we forwarded this on to the Bismarck PD. Or maybe we just put it on the form that this form will be committed to the or would be submitted to the Bismarck PD. But to that extent, that's where I wonder, we're playing that middleman role. It seems like we're just passing the buck. It seems like maybe this is something we should be urging the Bismarck police to take on so that there's not so many levels to get that complaint submitted. But if we think this would be more successful in garnering those comments and complaints than one on the police's website, then I think if that's the intent of the committee, then I think we stick with the form and just develop a process.
Thanks, Krista. I agree with you. I mean, yeah, you have very valid points, and absolutely. I mean, it's not for us to be we're making a decision about how to go about resolving any kind of complaint. I do think at this point it'll really help us as we have someone from the PD come in and, if they already have a process in place, and if they say they have a great success rate, and maybe we don't need the form. However, I do feel if we have a form, it could be just a safe haven for people if they want to, but absolutely getting a process would be really important here.
Sure. Whitney and Jason, would you be able to request that an appropriate person from the Bismarck Police Department attend our next meeting to discuss what our options would be if we were looking to, promote this form and work with the PD on those complaints?
Yeah, definitely, Krista, this is Jason. We can either reach out to Chief Dreyevich directly, or Officer Horn reports to Sergeant Brocker. He's in charge of that division within the PD for the community relations and outreach side of things. So either way, we can talk to one of those two individuals and see if we can get somebody available for the, the January meeting.
Any other discussion on the human relations discrimination form? If not, we'll just move forward with the information, the invitation to the Bismarck Police Department to see if they can attend our next meeting. And hopefully we're able to come up with some sort of process at that time and determine if this form is something we want to keep in place on the website. Moving on to our 2020 Human Relations Committee goals. Top of the list is full committee. As you know, we're going to be losing a few members of our committee as their terms expire in 2021, in January of 2021. I believe we've received a few applications. Whitney, can you give us an update on that process? Have they been forwarded to the mayor, and are we looking at having someone appointed at our next meeting?
We have 3 people being appointed at the next meeting. 2 of them are current committee members, and then we have 1 new member. I'm trying to find the. Yeah.
Just give us a second. We're going to pull up the agenda for tomorrow.
Darcy, Manisha, and then a new member. I think it's Sargiana Wutsky. She applied, and the mayor picked hers out of the 7 other applicants that we had.
7 applicants, that's impressive.
It is. He was pretty excited to have to go through that many applications, and he had them for a couple weeks and really reviewed, took his time to review them before picking, and he made his selection. And so the letters went out that the commission would be reviewing for approval or for appointment. And then we should have new people. I believe I put for them, or for at least Sargiana, to attend the January meeting on her letter that will go out, just so she could get to know everybody, kind of have a warm-up meeting before she's officially appointed.
Wonderful. Thank you for all your work on that, Whitney. One of the terms that's expiring in January, a current committee member who will no longer be serving is Sister Hannah. And I think I speak for all of us, but I personally want to thank Sister Hannah for all of her work on this committee. She's been a driving force. She has taken on so many projects, led so many initiatives, and everything she does is heartfelt and meaningful, and you exercise such great care in all the work you do. So thank you for all the work you've brought to this committee. You leave behind big shoes to fill, and I'm personally sad to see you go, but appreciate all that you've done for this committee. So thank you.
Thank you, Krista, for that. Thank you.
Looking forward to meeting the new members, and of course, 2 of our members are already here. So thank you, Darcy and Manisha, for your interest in staying on the committee. I look forward to what we can do in 2021. But I guess we'll likely, I don't think that there's going to be any debate. So it's very likely that Sargiana will be our new member, and hopefully we can all be very welcoming to her at the next meeting and make her glad to be joining us. Student liaisons is the next thing up. We've tabled that discussion till May. In case any of you were not at the last meeting, we decided to table any discussion and progress on that until May because we just weren't getting any applications in. So in May, we'll revisit the process, see what we can do to raise awareness and move forward with that. Diversity University, this fall, as you know, because of COVID-19, we were not able to host our cultural dinner. And in place of that, instead, Sister Hannah and Manisha took on a little project. I believe Whitney sent out a video to the committee members today. Phenomenal job on that video. Manisha, you were an excellent host. Christine with the city did the video editing, and Ben over at Dakota Media Access did the filming. And of course, Sister Hannah was a driving force behind accomplishing this video. But wonderful job. I watched the whole thing today, and I'm very excited to try making my own butter chicken with your recipe, Manisha. But Hannah and Manisha, if you want to tell us a little bit about that for those who maybe haven't seen the video.
Yeah, I can start, and then I have a question, I guess, for the committee. I think it went really well. I can let Manisha talk about how it was to host. I mean, it took quite a few hours on that Saturday. Ben came with, I think, all the cameras from Dakota Access. A lot of cameras. So we had like major setup going, which is why it looks so nice with all the different angles. And then Christine kind of did the directing, I guess. And then I just kind of helped where they needed, and Manisha did the cooking. And like I said, of all the hours that were there and then the editing she had to do, very impressive. So I'll let Manisha talk in a minute, but I got an email from Christine today from the city who did the editing, and I would like to continue with these. I have some people who are sort of I'm getting them ready to agree. Names I got from Leah from Global Neighbors that are willing to be the next contestants on this little cooking show. It's a lot of editing, and it's too many hours for Christine to do at her job to be a 15-minute type video like Manisha's was. So Christine asked, she was wondering if we would switch to more of a 3 to 5 minute video with a little bit more of a script. I think it would have kind of a similar beginning, but the cooking part would be faster, I guess, because she feels she could edit those. I think my hands are kind of tied here because I can't do the editing. I mean, I don't know how, and of course time and stuff. And we'd almost have to hire somebody, I think, if we wanted to do it more 15-minute videos. On the one hand, I think people might watch more of if it's a little shorter. But yeah, that's why I brought it here to see what people think. And Manisha, if you want to talk now.
Sure. Thank you, Sister Hannah. First of all, thank you all for, if you watched the video, thanks a lot, because I know it was a long video. It was 15 minutes, and absolutely, I agree with Sister Hannah. I think I was just cooking, but the other people were standing and watching and bearing with me, and it was about a 3-hour thing. So I agree that, all 3 people, Sister Hannah, Ben, and Christine, they had to put in a lot of work, and I can not even imagine how much work would Christine have had to put in to clip that 3-hour thing to a 15-minute. So it was definitely fun for me to go and cook, but I know that it must have been very difficult to edit and Ben was there an evening prior to that, just to set up things early in the morning as well. So it did take much more than what we tend to see, which because of which I am much more appreciative of the cooking shows now that I watch. So yeah, I agree with Sister Hannah. I mean, if we could cut it down to a 5 or a 7 minute, I think that will save a lot of people a lot of time as well as energy. So yep. And if you're trying that dish and you have questions about anything, please feel free to email me or reach out to me. I'll be happy to help you.
We taste tested. It was very, very good. Excellent.
Thank you, Hannah and Manisha. As somebody who's done video production professionally and done communications professionally, I think that you're on to something with the shorter videos. I think one way that could easily, we could easily handle that is if you've ever seen any of the Tasty recipes or, it's basically a shot over, a bowl or oven. It's a close up where all the ingredients are pre-measured and you're just kind of dumping them in a bowl and there's that catchy music behind it. And so you just dump it in a bowl and it's on the screen. It says, 2 tablespoons cayenne pepper or something.
It's sped up. That's right.
Yep. It's really sped up and it's just, we would probably have the person who was teaching the recipe would probably speak for, 15, 20 seconds at the start, talk about their culture and what they're cooking. And then you just go into the music showing, the food being dropped into the bowl, it going in the oven, and then a final shot of it, how it looks. So I think that would probably be more manageable for Christine. As saying that as somebody who's edited video before, that would probably be a lot easier because there's a lot less cutaways and things you have to worry about because it's basically just, throwing things in a bowl.
Yeah, and we need Ben too because I didn't really get trained on the, there was just too much going on. And he had so many cameras and I think it would take a lot of training for me to get to know what he was doing. So it's kind of a time thing. We need Ben, Christine, and our volunteers all on the same day. And so yeah, I'm glad you're supporting the shorter video because then we can keep Christine.
Certainly. And also I think for your own time as volunteers, that's a lot of time to ask you guys to donate as committee members. So, if we can shorten that up, I think that would be great.
Yeah. We're hoping to do 2 in one day next time, I think. So.
Okay. When are you planning to do the next videos, Hannah?
Well, I'm hoping January. I'm finding out first when Christine's available and stuff, and then I'll move to my people that I'm working on to give them a few options. But I think Saturdays, is really the only time, I think, because of people's work,
Sure. Well, I'm not going anywhere in the near future, so if you want me there to help out in any capacity, let me know.
Oh, okay, sure.
I'd be there. Just let me know when you guys are doing it next.
Mm-hmm.
Did anybody else have anything to add about the videos? Did you watch them? Do you have any feedback?
I'm not sure when they're going live. Does anybody know? I know they're on YouTube, but on the Facebook page and stuff.
That we were gonna kind of see if you guys had a direction or if you wanted them live right away or she finished them over the weekend. She wanted to leave that up to you guys. It's ready to go.
Right.
All we do is kind of push it out there.
One thing I would say regarding this video in particular, Manisha, you made comments about the holidays, right? How this was a meal that you traditionally enjoyed over the holidays.
Uh-huh.
So with that in mind, I think it would be nice to get this out sometime this week, probably, unless Manisha or Hannah has any other preferences on that.
That's fine.
Yeah, I think that was the intent, that we get them out during the holidays. So
And
I'm
where's
completely fine.
Where's the recipe? Will that be on that'll be underneath, or what? I didn't quite get what Christine said to me today.
She was actually gonna see if Manisha would email the recipe.
Okay.
she was gonna try to watch it and pick out everything that she said, but she thought that if Manisha had it,
Oh, yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Yes,
I think we need that
do, and
on-
I do have her email.
Okay.
Go ahead, Sister Hannah.
I was just saying, we need that on there before we put it out, obviously.
I'll work on it sometime. I'll send it to her sometime tomorrow.
Krista, this is Jason. Maybe just for the group to understand what goes on behind the scenes. Christine shared with us this morning the amount of time that it took her to basically condense this into 15 minutes. And just Christine's time alone was somewhere between 16 and 20 hours. And her estimate of a production value, if you were to go out and pay for this type of a service from a local production company, you'd be in the neighborhood of at least $3,000 worth of time. So there's a significant commitment on our part, and unfortunately for Christine, this is not her primary role. We can't just let her go out and do this kind of stuff. This is really meant to be kind of secondary or even third on her task list. Although we're delighted she's here, we really want to use her creative skills and the support that she brings to this office. But we've got to make sure that we balance her time doing office work in addition to all this other stuff. And if these types of things get to be this length in the future, I don't know that we can offer Christine's services. So we're going to have to figure out a way to make this much more efficient and much more user-friendly. The other thing we're not really accounting for here is the time from Ben Smith and Dakota Media Access. I know he was over at the food co-op a day in advance, and as Sister Hannah mentioned, bringing in a lot of equipment and things like that. So even his expertise is kind of being, it's not really noted in a total roll-up cost, and we're not putting a dollar amount to this per se. But I just wanted to have everybody understand that, if we really wanted to put all the numbers and the value to this, we'd probably be looking at somewhere around $5,000 for a 15-minute video.
Jason, I think that's a really good point. When you put those dollar signs there, it really shows how much of a service they both did for us, and as well as Manisha and Sister Hannah for being the talent and the drivers behind this. So I don't know if everybody here knows Ben or if you've had the opportunity to meet Christine, but if you do, I think it would be nice if we could give them a thank you for the work that they've done on this. I'll email both of them and let them know that I appreciate it. But if anyone else has the opportunity to do that, Ben Smith, you can probably find and contact from Dakota Media Access's website. And then as far as Christine, I'm sure that Jason or Whitney would be able to provide the email address for them. Jason, you mentioned not being able to support it. Is that heavy in the future? Do you know if we were able to condense these down to, let's say, 3 to 5 minute max videos, which would cut the edit time down to at least a third, if not more, is that something the city could support, or do we need to look at other options?
I'd like to continue to try and support it as best we can. And Christine is more than willing to do some of this, but at the same time, what I can't let her do is I can't let her do it for free. She worked on it over the weekend and things like that, but regardless of if she's in the office or not, she needs to get paid for that time. So she and I will work out, how we manage that here. But I think a 3 to 5 minute video based on what Christine is telling us would be a much more manageable project for her. Now, I can't speak for Ben, but I can speak as a consumer. 3 to 5 minutes that's a pretty long attention span in today's YouTube audience world. So I'm anxious to see how well this is received. Through YouTube analytics here, we'll be able to see how many people watched the video in its entirety, how many kind of clicked through it, how many dropped off halfway, and that might help us better understand what the audience's attention span is and hit a better target that way too.
No, I think you're right. From a communications perspective, 1.5 minutes is kind of the sweet spot. You don't want to go over that. So I'd say ideally the frame would be 2 or 3 minutes, but I was thinking 5. It might, as we're trying to cut back, it might take us a little bit more to get down to that that sweet spot, so to speak. So, Manisha and Sister Hannah, does that seem doable to cut it back to 5 minutes or less for the next couple videos?
Yeah, and that was, besides the money part, I feel okay with it because it was Christine's idea. I mean, she definitely could have been like, I probably won't do anymore, because I left it a little bit open-ended on the email. I said, I know how much work this is. And she said, well, I think I could do it 3 to 5 minute videos. So, I'll believe her because I don't know much about editing except that it takes forever. So, yeah, I think it'd be fine.
All right. Any other comments on the cooking club videos? Hearing none, we'll move to the next one. Speaking to service clubs and committees, Sister Hannah, have you had an opportunity to speak to any other service clubs or committees since our last meeting?
Nope, it's kind of on hold. I did 4 before COVID, so.
Okay. I kind of figured it would be on hold. I don't think people are inviting speakers as much.
Oh, they're just not even meeting, yeah. Some of them, especially the older ones, yeah.
And then participation in community events. There's, as far as I'm aware, there's not a lot of events we can participate in right now due to COVID, but I could be wrong. Are there any events that a committee member would like to bring forward to this committee that we should consider participating in?
I was gonna say, just share the video when it comes out, participate in that, I guess. The cooking video.
Thank you, Hannah. I definitely will. And I'm going to make it, and I'm going to tell you how it turns out.
Awesome.
Probably turn out as well as Manisha's, but I'm going to give it a go. Maybe I'll create a video of my own showing how bad an amateur chef can do at Indian food. What was that, Jason?
I was just gonna mention that when the video is ready, when we have the recipe and all that stuff and put that into the comment section or wherever it ends up in the information, it's most likely that this office will push it out on the city's Facebook page. And once we've done that, for those of you that have that social media platform, we can make sure that Whitney sends you guys a link. And if you guys want to share it with your network, that would probably be the best way to get it out there.
Thank you, Jason. All right, it looks like we got through our goals. There's one thing under other business that I would like to bring up just prior to the start of our next year as a committee. And I'll be brief, I promise. I'm sure we all want to move on with our evenings, but this year we had several committee members that missed 3 meetings. So I just wanted to touch on that. There are probably a lot of absences, due to COVID or other things that had come up. But just a friendly reminder that as a member of this committee, it's important that committee members attend meetings so that we are able to move forward with projects and have full discussion. So in the year ahead, the expectation has and will be that each committee member is responsible for attending 8 out of the 12 committee meetings. If that's something that you feel like you're not able to do, you don't have to say anything now, but you can shoot me an email and we can talk through it. But I just want to make sure that everybody is aware of the expectations so it doesn't come up down the road. And I think that, if there are certain exceptions that can be made, if there was a, really strong expectation, if there was something terrible happening, if somebody was very ill or a family member was very ill, I think we'd be willing to work through those things. But we just have to have people at the meetings so that we can move forward with business. So that's all I had to say about the attendance. I think nobody got into trouble this year. We had really good attendance today, but there are a few people who, if they hadn't attended today, might have, met that just barely inked by on the attendance requirement for the year. So I just wanted to reiterate that. Other than that, I don't have anything to add during this meeting. So I'll open it up to the rest of the committee. Are there any other business that we need to discuss?
I do have one comment that I'm going to make here.
Yes, Darcy, go ahead.
I thought I would let you know that my brother Dave is in the People's Magazine.
Oh, that's great. What's he in the magazine for?
They're doing on the magazine. It's they're kind of doing, how do I want to say it? It's throughout the whole U.S. and whatnot. They're kind of doing highlights on people that have passed away from the COVID-19. And so because my brother Dave was running to be a legislator, it's been a nightmare with that because it went to the Supreme Court and whatnot. So the People magazine was really hounding my mom on doing an article. So I actually picked one up today. It is, how do I want to say it? It's December, I gotta look here, on the 28th. And it has Kate on the front of it, and Dave is on page 54. So they have a really nice picture of him and just a really small article. So it's on pretty much everybody that has passed on from this ever since the COVID-19. So I just wanted to let you know that.
Thank you, Darcy. And I believe the reason that they were interested in that story is Darcy's brother, and correct me if I'm wrong, Darcy, but your brother was elected to a political office here in the state of North Dakota, but unfortunately passed.
For the District 8, him and Dave Naring beat out Jeff Delzer. And because of the election, the governor appointed someone the day after the election and never said anything to anybody. So it was a nightmare. Right now, I will tell you that my dad is having a very difficult time dealing with a lot of guilt, and knowing that there's 3 kids, I can kind of relate to that with dealing with the survival guilt, being the only child left. So it's been a real roller coaster for me right now. And of course, our birthday was actually on the 30th of October, and it was a real gut wrencher.
Can't imagine how hard that must be to go through, Darcy, and we're certainly here for you if you ever need somebody to talk to. I hope you know that.
Well, I do, and I will say this one thing about Mayor Bakken, because he knew Dave also, and I told Steve that because Dave and I are twins, that's why I say the survival guilt. Because both of my brothers are gone in the month of October. And I told Steve, and I guess I was only going about how I was feeling at the time, and I said to Steve, I said, yeah, Dave is my twin brother. I said, I don't even know if I even want to celebrate my birthday this year. Steve actually told me, and he kind of woke me up with it, and said to me that if you don't celebrate your birthday, then you're not celebrating, you know. And oh my God, is that so true? So I do, and I've talked to Steve, not all the time, but he kind of checks in every so often. So I do. I thank God for that part. So yeah, it's been very, very tough for the last few months. So if you talk about absence, being absent or whatever, it's been I've been trying to make them, but I usually try to let people know that when I'm not going to be there. So I don't know if that counts as an excuse or what, but I'm trying my best.
No, Darcy, that's understandable. I think And you've only missed 2 meetings this year. I'm looking at our attendance right now. So I've missed 2 meetings this year. I missed February and I missed October. So you and I are kind of in a fair place. We're not in a position to be worried. It's more for, if there's anybody who can't meet that 8 meeting requirement. And of course, a loss like what you've suffered is something we would certainly take into account if you were to miss several meetings. Those are the type of extenuating circumstances that exceptions can be made. So.
Well, one thing I'm going to tell you is that I lost both brothers in the month of October. And I'll tell you how close it was. And it didn't really hit me until after I found out about Dave. My youngest brother was killed in a car accident in 1980. He was 11. Dave was 55, so I'm really beginning to hate double-digit numbers here. So yeah, it hasn't been fun, and just because of the legislative session and reading the articles in the paper, oh my God, it has made me really angry. So it pays to have friends as legislators, because when they start calling my brother Mickey Mouse or why in the hell did we vote for a dead person? Oh my God, I wish people would do their homework, because Dave passed away on October 5th. And I'm just going to round it off to a month because the election was the 3rd of November. The state could not take my brother off the election ballots. So I just wish that people would do their homework.
Thank you, Darcy. I'm sure it's been a very difficult time for you, and I think we're all very sorry to hear of your loss. If any of the committee members see that People magazine and want to take a look at it to learn more about her brother's story, it sounds like it should be available now.
Well, it is, but I actually went down to Target this morning, and I actually called my mom to making sure which the date was or whatever. It does have Kate. Okay. One of the over in the UK. What am I trying to say? I wanted to say, is he married to Prince Harry, or is it the other one? I can't remember now. I'm really losing it here. But anyway, she's on the front of it. And so it's December 28th.
Okay, the December 28th issue. So if you guys are, out shopping and you see the magazine, you might want to pick it up. It sounds like it would be an interesting read, and certainly a story that's very dear to one of our committee members. So please consider it. Giving it.
I have like small articles of everybody else, so it's actually kind of cool. I haven't been reading I've been reading some of them, but not all of them. But some of them are even like really small, like infants and whatnot. It's been kind of gut-wrenching.
Absolutely. Thank you, Darcy. Unfortunately, in the sake of time, we're already at 6:44, so I think we're going to have to wrap up. So I'm going to do one last call for any other business from the committee. Hearing none,
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, I have a motion to adjourn from Darcy. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Brandy seconding. All in favor, raise your hand or say aye.
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 All